Cool.
This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, the tongue-tied here, Toxic Avenger is celebrating its 35th anniversary, and of course, Trauma been around since I think 74, 2 years after I was born, and wow, they really hit the big time with this cult film. And I can really relate to this film because I was bullied in high school. I was bullied growing up, period. So I really relate to the Mop Boy who would become the Toxic Avenger. In fact, I have the Mop Boy himself on the phone with me. I have the wonderfully talented, the awesome Mark Torgl. How do you do, Mark?
Hey, Greg, is that really you? I can't believe it. You're so soft and fluffy, like the sheep. Just like the sheep.
Soft and fluffy like the sheep. That is one thing I was never told to do, was kiss a sheep.
Yeah, it was pretty disgusting because that sheep was crawling with all sorts of bugs, gnats, and all sorts of squirmy, gross things. So when the lights went on and I saw what was crawling all over that sheep, it pretty much did make me sick. So the acting wasn't even acting; it was real.
Wow. Yeah, and yet you're still friends with Lloyd Kaufman, and it kind of reminds me of the relationship between Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. Sam Raimi said he just loves to torment Bruce Campbell, and Bruce Campbell keeps coming back to those Evil Dead movies.
Yeah, Lloyd and I have remained friends. He invited me to a couple of conventions when we started filming our new film, which is Toxic Tutu, and Lloyd is a co-star.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been also keep going back to do cameos in most of Lloyd's films. Well, at least a couple. Return to Nuke High, and
Yep.
Return to Nuke High.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's good fun. Lloyd is good fun.
Yes.
A little crazy.
Well,
but,
it's interesting because I haven't had Lloyd on the show, and I am eventually going to reach out to him. But he and I are actually in a film together, strangely enough. And I won't be surprised if this guy reaches out to you eventually. James Balsamo.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah. Well, I'm no actor, but James has been on my show. And I come to know him through an actress I had on my show, Genevieve Rossi, speaking of Toxic Tutu. Yeah, and James was on my show, great guy. And I just got this message from him one night. This was back when I was working the back shift. And I got this email from him, and he asked me if I would mind shooting my own death scene for Cool as Hell 2, which, of course, Lloyd Kaufman is in. I stared at that for like 5 minutes. This was like 4 a.m, but I knew James would be up, so I called him. And I had to ask him, what's the context of my death scene for this movie? I am now cameoed in 4 James Balsamo movies, and all I had to do, all I had to do was have them shot on my phone. I didn't even have to leave here.
Yeah, you could do so much on a phone these days.
Yeah.
When we were making Toxic Tutu for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and my partner Joe was in New York and I'm in LA,
Mm-hmm.
half the time when we needed a pickup, I would just shoot myself on my phone and send it off to him. And it's just, the quality is so great these days. You can shoot an entire movie on a phone.
Absolutely, really. Yeah. Wow. What do you think of it now, 35 years later? I mean, Toxic Avenger is kind of like in the same vein as The Big Lebowski or Office Space, movies that didn't catch on right away, but boy, they gained a massive cult following that's lasted.
Oh, yeah. When it was initially released, I don't think it lasted for more than a week in, a handful of theaters that it was at. And then it started showing up first as a midnight movie in New York at the Bleecker Street Cinema as a midnight movie on like Saturday night, and they started playing it every Saturday, and the crowds, caught on to it, and they came, and that's where it took off to be an occult movie. I even made a personal appearance there one night when I was still living in New York, because Trauma is based in New York, and I was going to film school at NYU, so that's how I started working with them. They actually put up a notice on our school job board to come work on a real film. We won't pay you like you would on a real film.
Like James Balsamo with me.
Yeah. So, that sort of started my whole relationship with Trauma. I actually went and worked on a film before the Toxic Avenger with them. It was called The First Turn On.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I saw that on your thing. Was that through Trauma?
It was. And that was
Okay.
that was the year before Toxic Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing was, like I said, I was going to film school.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of acting, in high school and college, but I was really more interested in the other end of filmmaking, directing and camera work and editing sort of thing. But when I went to work for Trauma, it was as a script supervisor, not as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And, the thing is, Trauma is so low budget that a lot of people drop out, especially the actors. And there was a pretty major role in The First Turn On. It was about camp counselors and a bunch of kids that get caught in a cave and start talking about their first sexual experiences. But the camp counselor's boyfriend, the actor didn't show up. And Lloyd said, "Mark, you go and do it." And that's kind of how the whole thing started with them. It was another socially awkward character, super nerdy. And then apparently when they were casting for Toxic Avenger, they told me that they auditioned hundreds of kids, and what they really wanted was what I did in The First Turn On. And they said, if I want the part, it's mine. And I said, okay, sure. And can I still be the script supervisor? Which was kind of stupid, but actually I was. And so I got to see the whole film being made, too. So that was nice.
So you actually got the first base in that one, unlike in Toxic.
What's that?
You got to go to first base on this one in terms of romance.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because my girlfriend, the camp counselor, was a super nerd fan, I guess, but she loved me.
I haven't seen this film, so I'm going to assume that you get to kiss this woman.
Yeah, we played doctor, and yeah, there's some sexual encounters because it was a teenage sex comedy. So pretty much everyone was involved in some sort of sexual way. You should see it. It's I have some classic scenes in there. I have a dinner scene with her parents, and I'm like rubbing mashed potatoes in my hair and doing unnatural things with the corn on the cob. It's pretty disgusting.
And what's she doing?
She's just smiling. She just loved it,
Who was the actress? I got to click onto this here.
What was her name?
Let me see. Let's see. You get Georgia Harrell.
That was it.
That was it?
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah. Georgia.
Yeah. Okay. So what was it like kissing her? Did you anticipate it? Did you look forward to it, or were you nervous?
We didn't really have a makeout scene. We had a play doctor scene.
Okay.
And that was everyone was just going for it and having fun, and it was just crazy. But
Yeah, I hadn't seen that film, but yeah, the first turn on.
Yeah,
Interest-
I do bare my butt in that movie.
Were you nervous about that?
I don't know. That was a different time when we were just sort of having fun. So not really. It was sort of the nature of the movie. So everybody was involved in some sort of craziness like that. So
That's funny. Well, I'll have to check that out. I just discovered the name of that movie while researching you,
yeah.
So I take it that experience was well and out for you, that you went on to do Toxic Avenger, which is pretty much your claim to fame.
Right. It was definitely the start of everything for me being involved with trauma. And we still do things together. So even though I'm in LA and I'm really I don't pursue acting so much, but I do accept jobs when people come my way and ask if I'll be in their movie. And I kind of like it that way because I never really wanted to have to be a starving actor on the audition circuit. I am an editor.
Yeah, I notice on IMDb you get 16 credits here editing.
Yeah, it's what pays the bills, and then every once in a while I'll go and do a film for fun. And usually these films don't pay or pay very little. So
well, maybe
I would have never survived if I was just acting like that. So
well, maybe
way I can do that.
Maybe James Balsamo will grab you.
It's possible. He's involved in a lot of my circles.
Yeah.
So, I know he's also involved with the Mad Monster People, which is a convention in North Carolina, and I've met with him to discuss my film, Toxic Tutu, and I see him popping up at all the places that I tend to go to. So yeah, he's definitely in there.
Well,
they're making there's word that they're making a remake of Toxic Avenger in Hollywood at Legendary Films.
Okay.
And I'm curious about it because Lloyd actually said that they have an interest in doing a cameo for me. So we'll see if that happens.
Well,
I can play Melvin's dad or something.
There you go. Well, I'm cameoed in 4 James Balsamo movies, and that's fine with me. It's not that ambitious to do. So for me, my end.
And you did them all at home on your iPhone.
You want me to tell you something? All my scenes are the same. They're just me sitting at my sister-in-law's computer desk with a coffee. My brother shoots it on my phone. It's just me ranting about whatever James wants me to rant about. It's just the same location, same everything,
Oh, that's funny.
And and I said to James, I said, "You like this?" James thinks it's awesome. I'm like I just I can't say to my brother, let's go do this, let's go do that, because I don't know what his schedule's like. So this is just something we just shoot right there, and it just looks like one of those things if people look at James Balsamo movie and see this one guy just doing the same thing. It's repetitive, but you know what? It's kind of like that guy,
Yeah. Well, Troma often uses the same shots in many of their movies.
Yeah.
Like there's a famous shot of the car going off the cliff that was shot in Toxic Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have that shot in like all their movies since then. There's always that, you see that car going over the cliff, in every one of their movies. It's the same one. So it's kind of a ongoing joke,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I need to know what it was like when you first. Do you remember the first time you met Lloyd Kaufman?
Oh yeah, it was when they put a job notice up on our job board at NYU, and I went over to the Trauma office, which was in Hell's Kitchen at the time in New York, and met with Lloyd and Michael Hers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Oh, you go to NYU. What do you want to do on this film?" And I said, "Well, I kind of like to be the script supervisor so I could work with the director." And Lloyd was like, "Great, you could be the script supervisor. What else do you want to do?" And I was like, I like writing. Can I, write some additional scenes or something? Yeah, you can write some additional scenes. What else do you want to do? I should have said, can I direct? Because he was just willing to give me any job I asked for and as many jobs as I asked for. Because they don't pay you, so they want to they want to get what they can out of you, really. So.
Well, it's funny because I remember them doing a film that's all but forgotten now, but I remember it. A little film called Waitress. They did just.
Yes.
I remember Waitress, and it was done just before Toxic Avenger, I think, or a couple of years before or so.
Yeah. I've seen the posters for it. I don't think I've ever seen it, but I know they've got those posters up in their office.
I remember
for all their movies.
I remember it vividly, but I just remember there was one girl that wanted to be an actress, and she was in there writing some stuff on a pad, and her pen, I guess, breaks, and she doesn't seem to grasp it. She reaches up to scratch her nose, and she got blue ink all over her face, and she just kind of carrying on like nothing's happened.
Yeah, that's typical Trauma. Yeah, that's their humor.
Yeah. So I remember Waitress, and I didn't realize they went back far as 1974, I think it was, and of course they've become known for like Poultrygeist and
right,
a bunch. I don't know where they come up with their ideas. Do you know the origins of the Toxic Avenger premise?
Well, I think Lloyd wanted to do something that was environmentally correct. So he wanted to, show the problems with toxicity and nature being, kind of destroyed through pollution. And along the way, because they weren't making horror films until they started making Toxic Avenger. They were making, like teenage sex comedies.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, it all comes from Lloyd initially. I know they did get somebody to help write it, but Lloyd is the mastermind over there, and he's a very funny person, and most of these crazy ideas are his, if not all of them. I know he's really happy about another film they did, Tromeo and Juliet.
What a title!
Yeah, and they're making a new film called Shakespeare Shitstorm. So I don't know if you can say that on your radio.
Go ahead. When this goes on YouTube, it won't matter. Shakespeare Shitstorm. What's that supposed to be about?
Oh well, it's a movie about Shakespeare and the world of trauma. So,
where does trauma come from? Because I know there's like Traumaville and Toxic Avenger, know, and Trauma High. Where does that come from?
They've been asked that many times.
Yeah,
and I think it's just a made-up word, but they often say that it means excellence in film.
Okay.
I don't know where they got that, but I think I don't know where it's just a made up word, but it fits in well with like traumatized. So it's.
Well, your character was traumatized.
Yeah, sure was.
Yeah, you played Melvin Junko, the mop boy.
Yes.
Yeah. Go for it.
You know what's funny is the Melvin character.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mistake in Toxic Avenger because he's called Melvin Ferd in one scene, and then he's called Melvin Junko in another scene, and they just left it in. They didn't correct this mistake. So he's actually got two last names, and I like the Ferd one myself, but yeah, it was just a weird one of those weird cinematic mistakes that never got corrected.
Well, this is a character that so many people can relate to. I was bullied in school, so here you got this guy that's sexually inexperienced, who's obviously sees all these gorgeous women at this health club. I mean, obviously he notices, and he's there with his mop. Does Lloyd get you to mop up the sets?
No, we never took it that far.
No. But even
well,
like
I did plenty of mopping in the movie, though. That's for sure.
Well, you know what? A janitor, and I can relate to this too. It's like when I hear stories like Justin Bieber urinating in a mop bucket, they're and just laughing about it with his friends, like there's somebody right there that's has money and privilege, looking down on somebody that's got to clean up after society, and I could just see Toxic Avenger like sticking his head in the mop bucket, but
yeah,
but
yeah, I get when I do these conventions, I get a lot of like nerdy boys that come by, and I'm like their hero, and they really it's a character, the Melvin character is something that really inspired them to be not so picked on. It's like a hero figure to them. That here was this nerd that was bullied and picked on that turns into a superhero, basically. And they really relate to that.
Yeah, and he kind of has this the Fantastic Four, the thing to him, because his love interest is a blind girl played by Andrea Miranda, Sarah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting that, he was unsure of himself, but he ended up, after she loses her seeing eye dog in a violent encounter, Toxic becomes kind of her guide, so to speak.
Oh, definitely. And, of course, the reason she was blind was so that she couldn't see how hideous he was. But then, she fell in love with his heart anyway. So, there's all sorts of little subtleties like that in trauma movies, And you know what? They're not actually that subtle. They're pretty blatant. So.
Well, you didn't get to be the monster himself. You got to do the transformation in the bathtub. Were you disappointed you didn't get to play the? As far as I'm concerned, you're still the Toxic Avenger, so it doesn't matter.
Well, the Toxic Avenger was played by Mitch Cohen, who was a bodybuilder, and they wanted that whole transformation, from 90-pound weakling to strength and power, and that's why they did it. No, I didn't mind. I feel bad for Mitch, the actor that played the Toxic Avenger, because he actually they dubbed they used another voice. That's not his voice. That the Toxic Avenger, they dubbed it with someone else's voice. So not only do you not see his face, you don't even hear his actual voice.
And that's distracting. Why did they do that?
I don't know. I think what they should have done is used my voice, because that could have been interesting. And other people have suggested that they should recut the movie with my voice instead. But I don't know why they did that. Probably because Mitch had a heavy New Jersey accent,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't think that hurt the character. He was from New Jersey. So I'm not sure why that decision was made.
Yeah. So you were a bodybuilder?
Yeah, yes. Mitch Cohen was a bodybuilder, so.
No, I mean you. You lifted the broom.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what? You had these gang of people that, of course, these people were really cruel. They would get joy out of running over some little boy on a bike. Lloyd really upped the ante in making these guys despicable people.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. The worst, they could be, that was, and the grossest they could be, that was all trauma. That's what they love to do. And especially with the car running over the boy's head. That scene actually caused the movie to be, it was restricted, and in Canada, you're from Canada.
Yep.
They didn't even allow that movie for a long time because of that scene. They didn't allow it to be seen. It was boycotted, by whatever the film commission or whatever. But yeah, that's trauma. It's as disgusting as you can be, and that's what they're all about. So.
Yeah. Well,
And their fans love it.
I gotta ask about Cindy Mannion because she is somebody that I've encountered women like that growing up. She of course played Julie, and
Right.
and I'm gonna tell you the scene where she takes her top off right in front of you. It's like every geek's dream. Talk about that and talk about working with her.
Cindy was she was a professional, and she was good to work with. She really just, I think it was one of her first films, if not the first, and she was really trying to be that actress, be that world. So it was good. Everybody really was good to work with. We were all young, we were all inexperienced, and everyone was really trying to do it just for the experience. And she was definitely willing to expose her breasts like that, and I'm sure that was her first time. And I enjoyed it too.
Well, you have an encounter with her with a pair of shears, and I'm going to tell you, most slasher films per se, you're cheering the woman, but not here.
No, she was a bad guy.
Yep. But I have to admit, I like the over-the-top villains here, like Gary Snyder as Bozo, and I like how he get himself all worked up, and Robert Pritchard as Slug, and of course Jennifer Baptist as Wanda, who ends up in a hot seat situation.
Yes, she did, in the hot tub in the steam room. She got her bottom end all burned up, didn't she?
How did they do that scene?
I think it was done with a smoke machine,
okay,
and or dry ice. It was just special, special effects, not real steam or anything. But yeah, they had a pretty good special effects team on there. Also, young people that were getting good experience doing it, and it looked good. So
now, what was it like with those four tormentors offset?
Well, since I was also the script supervisor, I got to hang out with them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they weren't really bullies. They were, cool people. And we just had fun. I remember, also Gary and Rob are in my film Toxic Tutu.
Mm-hmm.
They both have cameos in it. And when we were interviewing Gary, he said he was really surprised when we did our scenes together, and then as I was the script supervisor, I was like, weren't really nerdy. You were kind of a cool guy, and I was really surprised to see that you weren't that big nerd that we were acting with. And so it was kind of fun, that he had that impression of that was really the way I was, but.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, yeah, and then you were there in like your leather jacket, and it was just crazy.
You didn't get Cindy in this?
We couldn't get a hold of Cindy, and we couldn't get a hold of the girls. Robert and the other one. What
Gary.
was
Gary.
No, the other woman, the other
Jennifer
actor.
Baptist?
Yeah, Jennifer. They were married for a while.
Okay.
And we kept asking him, can you get her, can we get her information so we can see if she can be. And he kind of never let on. I guess they got divorced and he didn't really want to tell us that information. But yeah, we couldn't get the girls in it, but Lloyd's in it, and
there you
Gary
go.
and Rob are in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who else is in it? The boy who gets his head smashed by the car.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and he's got a pretty major role in it in Toxic Tutu. So it's all what it is it's the almost true story of whatever became of the Toxic Avengers, Melvin the Mop Boy. So we tried to get as many people as we could from the original movie. Also, the character that played my mother is in the movie as well. So we got quite a few people to come back and do it for us.
What was it like doing the bathtub scene where you're starting to go through the transformation?
Well, that's kind of a funny story because that water was ice cold. Like they had no hot running water for that tub, and they kept trying to warm it up with heating pots of boiling water and putting it in, but nothing really worked. So eventually I just used it, for my displeasure and went into the freezing water, and it probably helped the scene actually. But it was crazy. That makeup that it was. There's a funny story about the makeup because after we filmed the transformation scene, I couldn't get that makeup off, and the makeup people couldn't get the makeup off. Everyone is amateurs, and they took me at one point to a local YMCA to try and get the makeup off, like in a shower room. And I was in there like scrubbing away at this disgusting makeup that was like rotting skin. And a gang of boys that just had a swimming lesson came into the shower and saw this like naked man with rotting skin falling off his face, scouring away, and I'm sure they were traumatized forever upon seeing this.
That's funny. A couple other people from the movie I got to ask about, of course, Pat Ryan, who plays the corrupt mayor, and Dan Snow,
Right.
who was Cigarface.
And who's Cigarface?
Dan Snow, who is Cigarface.
Oh yeah.
Talk about
They were really good. The mayor was in a lot. He's been in a lot of trauma movies, and he was a really good actor, and Cigar Face was really talented as well. He pulled off that character, you know, like nobody could. So, you know, I mean, the main thing with working as an actor for Troma is to be as over the top as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
They're always trying to get more out of you. It's you can do something really over the top and they'll want it even bigger. So, you know, you have to understand what they are going for, and they're going for ridiculousness, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, being over the top and outrageous.
You know, I heard that when you ended up in the Toxic Drum, that you had to get in there and all this disgusting stuff. Talk about that.
Well, it was like a gelatin sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a stunt guy actually did the fall
Mm-hmm.
from the window. And then I stuck my head into the gunk and came out. Something funny, if you're watching that scene, when I come out and I'm rolling around on the pavement,
Mm-hmm.
and then I start on fire,
Yeah.
my hand actually caught on fire.
Oh.
And, you know, it was something that left a scar on my hand. And you know, they had to like put it out with like, you know, a fire extinguisher. But that's still in the movie where my hand is actually on fire.
Wow. I guess when you do conventions, did you show up wearing the tutu or?
Oh yeah, I usually have it there, and I usually have a mop, and you know, these conventions. Sorry, there's a helicopter going over.
Yeah.
These conventions were something that I didn't do until about 6 years ago when the Mad Monster Party called me up and said, "You have fans that want to meet you. We do this convention in North Carolina. We'll bring you out. We'll put you up. You can make a lot of money signing autographs." And you know, like I said, I've been working in Hollywood as an editor, and they made it very appealing to me. And I called my film school buddy, Joe Nardelli, to come and film it. Like we were just going to do like a documentary
Mm-hmm.
of my experience at this convention. And then we decided at some point to turn it into a bigger film, a narrative film.
Yeah.
And that took like 5 years to make, and our backdrop was mostly conventions. So I started doing as many as I could, mostly for the so that we could film them
Mm-hmm.
and get more material for Toxic Tutu.
What's the most unique thing you've ever been asked to sign?
Someone brought a mop. And she was actually a janitor, and so that was pretty interesting. I've signed body parts. I've signed a couple of breasts.
Mm-hmm.
I've signed a butt. And I think one of the biggest surprises, I see a lot of Toxic Avenger tattoos that people have.
Oh,
and
wow.
one of them actually has Melvin
Mm-hmm.
tattooed on their leg. So that was pretty crazy, and that somebody actually has me tattooed on their body.
So the Toxic Tutu is basically, you know, where has the Mop Boy been, you know, and you're showing up, and it has a documentary kind of feel to it, but you're having some fun with it, doing some fiction stuff with it, and having some fun. Talk about this process.
Well, it's like I said, it started when I did my first convention,
Mm-hmm.
and my film school friend Joe Nardelli came along, and we started filming, this as a documentary. Um, Somewhere along the line, I think it was Joe's idea to really make it more of a narrative movie, a comedy, and didn't really even have a script, just sort of ideas that came along. And we did it very much in the Troma tradition of no money, very low budget. We had a bunch of social media campaigns to raise money, for
Mm-hmm.
funds. And also, like Troma movies, we lost people too. We lost some actors, and had to rewrite the idea. So it's kind of amazing that we were actually able to finish it, and it actually has distribution. So it's available on Amazon, and you can stream it on Amazon Prime and a bunch of other places. So just the fact that it actually got done is quite an accomplishment, and we're pretty happy that it's got worldwide distribution now. So
Well,
very cool.
I was looking at the credits for it, and I noticed you have Jake the Snake Roberts as himself in it. Talk about
Yes.
meeting him.
He was like in and out. He was a guest at one of these conventions,
Mm-hmm.
and we asked him if he wanted to be in the movie, and I think we had to give him like $500 or something. But I did. I mean, I'm not really a big wrestling guy, but then when I learned how big he really was,
Mm-hmm.
I was very happy that he's in the movie.
Did he DDT you and put the snake on you?
He did that to Johnny Fairplay. And Johnny Fairplay was in Survivor twice, and pretty much a villain. And met him at a convention, like most of the people we met at these conventions. And he was a big Toxic Avenger fan. And I said, we said, well, do you want to be in our new movie, Toxic Tutu? You can play the bad guy. And he was, loving that, and he's got, a major role.
So Jake DDTs him in this movie?
What's that?
Does Jake DDT him in this movie?
Yeah.
Does he put the python on him?
I think, I'm not sure if he did the python, but he definitely slammed him to the mat. And, it was like his punishment for doing bad things. So, yeah, it's, we're really happy that the wrestling community is embracing this film. So, there's other people in it that are quite popular in the wrestling world.
Who else is in this?
The Boogie Woogie Man, who does like a wrestling camp, and he's really well known, and he's got a pretty big role. And then there was also a wrestling team that puts on these shows, and I think they're called the Rock and Roll Wrestlers or something like that.
Okay.
So they're in it.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't aware of those guys, but I definitely knew who Jake the Snake Roberts was. One person, though, that I've had on my show twice, who's in this movie, is Gino Vivarossi.
Okay.
Oh, gee, you come up short there. You don't remember her?
I'm not sure which character she was.
I'm seeing if I can find her on here. Melvin's Fluffer. Melvin Fluffer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's also known as the Scream Queen.
Yep.
And she does a lot of conventions as well, and a lot of movies.
Yeah.
She has a very small part in the movie. And I was not even there when she did that role because it was something Joe did later in New York, and I was in Los Angeles. Um, but she's in it,
Yeah.
and yeah, another horror name.
I
It's
was
always good to
texting.
have.
I was texting back and forth with her just this past week because we're both in Cool as Hell too. And I don't think she was aware that she was in it. So she was asking me about her part. But
Oh, that's funny.
yeah,
That's
I think
funny.
I'm the impression I have is I think James might have reused footage or something.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
trauma tradition.
yeah. But I've had.
She also there was a film we had entered it into a film competition
Mm-hmm.
in San Diego, and she got Best Supporting Actress award, and I got Best Actor award. So, and Lloyd got Best Supporting Actor award. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting world, the horror people, and they kind of all know each other, and they all surround themselves with everything horror. And that was also fun doing the film convention.
I find that like I've been to one Comic Con in Toronto and I've been to two Horror-ramas, and I gotta say, and I liked Comic Con, don't get me wrong, but I have to say I found the Horror-rama events much more intimate.
Oh yeah, Comic Con's gotten so big,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost stifling. I've done it twice, and just to like walk around is almost impossible, because it's so crowded and so big now. Um, and the smaller horror conventions are a lot more intimate, like you said, and you can really meet people and have conversations
Yeah.
and in those intimate situations. So I agree with you. I think those smaller ones are a lot more fun.
Yeah. Well, you also will play Evil Melvin in Citizen Toxic, the Toxic Avenger 4. Talk about that experience.
I was in LA at that time. They actually wanted me to be in Toxic Avenger 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing about Toxic Avenger 2 and 3 is that it was supposed to be one movie, and they made it into two movies.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to come back for that, but I was working in LA, and they didn't want to pay anything, and they were like, well, that's just not the Troma way to pay the actors. And I looked at the script, and I didn't think the script was very good.
Okay.
And I declined being in 2 and 3. And of course, they got another actor to play Melvin. And he's known in the Troma world as the fake Melvin.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that people are always, saying, nah, that's not the real Melvin, got Mark. But then when they made Toxic Avenger 4, I had been here in LA for quite a while, and I did it just for the fun of it. They flew me back. I still didn't get paid, but they flew me back, put me up in a hotel, and that's kind of when I got back acquainted with Troma,
Mm-hmm.
or was Toxic Avenger 4. And then we kind of remained social after that. It was interesting because when I did Toxic Avenger, everybody was kind of new to the Troma experience. And when I went back to do Toxic Avenger 4, there were a bunch of Troma fans and Toxic Avenger fans that were working for them. And so they were totally psyched, when I showed up to do the cameo. And it was such a different world because they've got all these fans that are working for them. And they're really kind of ravenous. These fans are super fans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what happened with our film as well. we mostly have Toxic Avenger fans or Trauma fans working as the crew and as the cast. We put out a job notice to come and be in Toxic Tutu, Mark Melvin, the Mop Boy's new film, and we were doing it at Cal State Northridge, and we just put out a general notice online, and surprisingly, like over 100 fans showed up to be in the movie, and we were just like thrilled that that all these Toxic Avenger fans came to support us and be in the movie. So it was really cool.
Well, what's interesting, they say that they don't pay actors, but I mean, this fourth one, you got Corey Feldman, Ron Jeremy, Debbie Rochon. They didn't do this for free, did they?
I think they probably did, or they got
really?
very little.
Okay. Well, Jake the Snake did get $500.
Yeah, from us, but that wasn't Trauma. That was us.
Oh.
I had to go to my ATM machine and get the cash for him.
Okay, I'll work for you.
Yeah, he's one of the only ones that got paid on our film, but we decided it was worth it.
Well, yes, it's Jake the Snake. Yeah. Wow,
yeah.
but I mean, Corey Feldman, he's in a movie that I'm part of right now called 13 Fanboy, which I'm a co-producer on. And again, I didn't have to leave New Brunswick. But right. Corey Feldman is in this, and of course you got Ron Jeremy here, Debbie Rochon. What is your memories of them?
Well, Ron Jeremy is really part of the whole Trauma experience. He's always at the conventions that Trauma's at, and he's been in many of their movies, and he just kind of does it for the notoriety of of being part of Trauma and getting away from the whole porn world. He gets a lot of people coming up to meet him, and he's personable. He's willing to talk to anybody, and it's just interesting that he's become such a big part of the Trauma world.
Yeah, he's somebody I should reach out to at some point as well. But and of course, Debbie Rochon playing Ms. Wiener. What a name!
I'm sorry.
She plays Ms.
What'd you?
She plays Ms. Wiener.
Oh yeah.
Debbie Rochon. Yeah, you got a lot of these horror film people that are part of this. Yeah, this one here was kind of an interesting one. The gangs are a little bit different. And of course, I guess according to you, the atmosphere different from the Toxic Avenger. So, yeah. So, how was this fourth one received?
I think it was received better than 2 and 3.
Okay.
But Trauma has really survived from the original Toxic Avenger. They continue to make money off of it. Lloyd has a townhouse in the east side of Manhattan, and he's got a gargoyle of Toxie above the door. So it's like the townhouse that Toxie bought.
You mean he doesn't have a gargoyle of Melvin?
Well, he's got the monster. No, he's just got a tattoo of me on his leg.
Yeah. And of course, speaking of Trauma, I got to bring up Return to Nuke High Volume 2, or AKA Volume 2, as it says here.
Yeah. I did that because Lloyd was so gracious to be in our movie, Toxic Tutu, and he asked me to do a cameo, and I said, of course, I couldn't turn him down. And that was an experience in itself, too. Have you seen it?
I have not, but I was looking at the pictures on it. You got a couple of really cute women in this.
Oh, they always do. They always get the cute women.
Ask Asta.
We shot my scene in the basement of Trauma. They're now in Queens, and so I was on cold cement, covered in muck as I usually am in a Trauma movie. And I won't give it away because
No.
it's a new film, but there's a pretty gruesome scene that I'm involved in, and I do, get it in the end in more ways than one.
Well, I was looking at pictures on this here, and I'll keep any spoilers from being leaked here or anything like that. But I see one picture here where it's got um, uh, Lloyd Kaufman's in it, and you got a guy dressed as Toxic Avenger with a mop, but he's wearing a Rowdy Roddy Piper outfit, like the shirt and the kilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but no, one of the women I got to ask about though is Asta Paredes. You remember her?
I'm sorry.
Astra Paredes?
I don't know her.
Oh, okay. Because I think that she's listed as the lead. She plays Chrissy Goldberg.
Okay, well, I've seen the movie, and she does a really good job. Their movies are highly sexualized and highly gory, and
Mm-hmm.
that was something that Trauma is known for. So it's enjoyable. The movie is
Okay.
enjoyable,
Well,
and I thought they did a really good job with it.
okay. Well, I'll have to check that out because it looked like any trauma movie. It looks like it's way over the top.
Oh yeah, they all are. They
Which,
all are.
which is the way which is the way we like a trauma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
all completely outrageously ridiculous, over the top. That's what it's all about.
let's talk about some of the stuff that you've edited. I'm looking at the stuff that you've edited here. You've got a lot of TV. Um.
Yeah, it's mostly been a TV career.
Mm-hmm.
I started out doing movie trailers,
Yep.
but then I moved into like the television world, and I've been working pretty steadily at Byron Allen's company, which is Entertainment Studios.
Mm-hmm.
I did a couple of sitcoms. I'm working on a game show now, and now we're doing a clip show, World's Funniest Weather. Byron bought the Weather Channel, so now we're doing a bunch of weather-related stuff. Um, so it's been a good career for me, and it's something that I enjoy doing, and it's completely opposite of acting and being at conventions where, I have to really be out there for the people. In the editing room, I'm pretty much in a dark editing room all by myself most of the time, pretty isolated. So it's like two different worlds that I'm involved in.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of filmmakers that love editing. Like Kevin Smith has said that he loves to edit. When he
Yeah,
get yeah.
yeah, I do too. It's a creative process, and it's a lot. I like it better than being in production, because production can be pretty grueling, especially when you're going from location to location, and the hours can be crazy. But editing can be like a more stable kind of situation. You're working on your equipment all the time, and just making the magic happen. And I enjoy that process.
So what's coming up in the future for you? And you must have some projects that you're gearing up.
Well, there's talk of doing another version of Toxic Tutu. The sad thing about Toxic Tutu is the director and my friend Joe, he passed away like shortly after the movie was finished.
Okay.
But we have other producers that still want to make another version, and so we're talking about that. I always am getting hit up by fans or Toxic Avenger fans that are now making their own movies, and I'm always, I never really turn anything down. Um, so I just wait for the, person to contact me because, like I said, I don't really, pursue and go out and audition or anything, but there are always people that want me to be in their films. So I'm just sort of, enjoying what I'm doing here. Life is good. I probably will keep doing the conventions because now I'm addicted to them. In fact,
They are
I've got
fun.
a couple. Yeah, and I've got a couple coming up, and people, they just, the fans, they just get a big kick out of meeting me, and I get a big kick out of meeting them. So it could, turn into something where I'm doing that more and doing the editing a little less. Um, we'll just have to see how it all evolves. It seems to never slow down, so there's always something, happening or coming up, and usually it's like something that I didn't predict, just sort of happens.
Well, here's a question for you. You say occasionally you wear the tutu at the conventions. Do you ever get your bag searched at the airport and have that found in it?
Oh, definitely. I think, the security, I think they know us
Okay.
because they often are, get questions. Like Joe would wear the tutu all the time,
Mm-hmm.
even in the airports and stuff. And I think we were going through security, and the guy was like, "Yeah, we know who you are. We know who you guys are." It's so we've been investigated, in other words, because of the bizarreness of wearing the tutus, and all. We usually have a mop with us, and it's like, it's interesting.
Because I've had a few guests who's had bad experiences with security at the airport, and those were
Yeah,
more serious. But I'm like thinking, if you're wandering through there and you've got
yeah.
that on you,
Oh yeah, they see us and they make sure that we're okay. So, uh,
oh, that's funny. Do you have a web page that you want to promote on here?
toxictutu.com,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook Toxic Tutu.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are the two main ones. So you can also, if you just Google me, there are thousands and thousands of hits, where you can get pictures and find out all sorts of stuff. But yeah, go to toxictutu.com. You can either do Toxic Tutu, spelled Tutu, or Toxic 22. They both come up. We try and keep that up to date. Since the movie's been distributed, it sort of now is a big page where you can find out, how to get the movie, where to stream it, and that sort of thing. And a lot of fun stuff on there too. And then Facebook has, a fan page. And I think that's Mark Torgl, Facebook Mark Torgl, or Facebook Toxic Avenger. You can find me pretty easily.
Okay. You got any charities that you're involved in that you want to plug on here?
I love the charities that have to do with nature,
Okay.
and I'm involved with a lot of the environmental charities,
Okay.
and animals.
Yep.
I'm very supportive of the animals. I'm very supportive of the American Indians.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I try and stay involved in stuff like that too.
The American Indians, do they like Melvin the Mop Boy?
I'm not even sure they realize who I am, but I'm sure they would. I'm sure they'd be thrilled. because the American Indians have been bullied themselves.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you say you haven't been out my way, New Brunswick, huh?
No, I'd like to go out there though.
Yeah.
Like I said, we got to London, Ontario to do the shock stock, and I loved the Canadians. They were a lot of fun. They know how to party.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the most fun conventions I've been involved in.
Okay. Where else have you been? Like, have you been out Europe or Australia or places like that?
No, I'd like to do some of those. I mean, I've been on personal trips to to Europe, but I haven't done the conventions. I know Toxic Avenger is really popular in Japan, and I have a lot of foreign fans that reach out to me through Facebook. Yeah, I need to get some of those conventions to bring me out there. That would be, a lot of fun to see the world via Melvin the Mop Boy.
Well, you know what? I get asked by a lot of my guests about this, and I'm not even sure how the conventions work, because I will put out suggestions to conventions, and whether they take them, I don't know, but I guess they have to reach out to you guys, right?
Yeah, pretty much. There are also agents that just deal with these conventions. So I've kind of got a loose relationship with a couple of these agents that occasionally try and get me into, the different conventions. But mostly I did it on my own, and just either by contacting the convention, the people that run the conventions, or I've done a bunch of conventions with the Trauma people, because they do them all. They do all the conventions. So anytime that they're doing one, I could pretty much tag along. That was, very useful.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to Horrorama again at the end of November. I'm going to talk to Chris Alexander and see what can be done, because I'm not sure. I think they got their roster for this year, from what I heard. So
yeah, they book those things pretty far in advance.
But I would love to, I love to give them ideas, because I know I'd love to meet some of the guests that's allowed me the honor to chat with them, and yeah, because I've come to really enjoy this, I do the whole Melvin the Mop Boy things 5 days a week, so I need a break at these things, so I can relate.
Yeah.
But
yeah, mention me, see if they'd be interested.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Well, you know what?
I'm always willing.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Mark? It was wonderful having you come on the show here today. This is just an honor, and have you come on here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and
it was a pleasure.
You're
very good at this.
Well, I enjoy it. Well, I don't write a bunch of questions down. I look at the credits and whatnot, and because I like to make it a conversation. Right. As opposed to rattling off questions, So yeah,
that's nice.
But I am going to check out some of your other films, though, like The First Turn On and whatnot. So, but I have seen Toxic Avenger. I can definitely relate to that, and never know, maybe James Balsamo will get you in a movie.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, he's in L.A. there, so
yeah, I've met with him here, so
yeah. I should see if I can get in a Trauma film. If they'll take footage of me on my phone footage, then I can do that. I don't move around too often. I get out to Toronto once or twice a year. That's about it.
Right.
Yeah. But nonetheless, this was quite an honor. And I was wondering, do you have anything else you want to promote before we close off?
Well, I think I've said it all. I've done it all.
Class of Nuke High were the other Trauma movies that you were in. You were what other ones did you cameo in?
just those were it. Just the Toxic Avenger 4, the Class of Nuke High. I did 2 of those.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
That's it, really.
All right.
First turn on. You have to see the first turn on.
Well, I don't know what my first turn on was. I got to think way back on that. Well,
so we're hoping for the legendary remake of the Toxic Avenger. That's the thing I'm kind of hoping will happen. And Lloyd is actually a producer on it, so he said that they were interested in getting me in there somehow. So that's something to look forward to, definitely.
There you go.
And just, everyone check out Toxic Tutu, because it's a labor of love. And if you love Toxic Avenger or Trauma, you will like this movie.
Yes, well, I definitely want to see it. The trailer looks good, and to see Jake the Snake DDT the villain, yeah, I will see that too.
There you go.
Well, before I let you go, could I get you to do a plug for my show?
Oh, sure. Hey, everybody, it's Mark Torgl, Melvin the Mop Boy from the original Toxic Avenger, and I'm on the Greg Gilbert Show. It's Python's Paradise out of New Brunswick, Canada. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being my buddy. Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And remember, when you're mopping up, you make sure all those women are keeping themselves fine-tuned.
That's right.
Yes. Because that's really what you were doing.
Keep them soaked up in the shower room. That's what you want to do.
I mean, you weren't being pervy. You were just looking out for them, right?
That's right.
That's right. I loved it when Bozo comes along, grabs you by the hair, just pulls you out of that weight thing.
Yeah.
That was just funny. You couldn't use it, and he just throws you out of the way. Oh, it's funny.
It was a lot of fun doing that movie.
Well, it looked like a laugh riot, so
yeah.
And we're glad that it got made, and we're very happy to have you come on today, and it was fantastic. So we're celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Toxic Avenger.
Unbelievable.
Hope to see you at a convention at some time in the future. All there, right. Mark.
Yeah, I hope so too, Greg.
Absolutely.
You have a good day now.
God bless you, and you take care.
Thank you. Thank you.